Test, test. Sound check.
We call the regular city council meeting to order. City council at 14050 Olympic Drive, Clearlake, California, at 6 o'clock. Okay, we're gonna call the regular city council meeting of the city of Clearlake to order at 14050 Olympic Drive, Clearlake, California, Thursday, January 6th, 6 p.m. Roll call. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Overton.
Here.
Councilmember Kramer.
Here.
Councilmember Claffey.
Here.
Vice Mayor Purdock.
Here.
Mayor Slutin.
Here. You will do the pledge of allegiance. Vice Mayor Purdock, you do the honor.
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please keep standing for a second. For a moment of silence to remember Bob Hopkins. He was president of the Vet Connect, instrumental in the creation of the youth center. He started our flag football organization and he sat on the senior center board and was a Meals on Wheels driver who was a great asset to the community. All right, thank you. So now the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Mr. Mayor.
All right, can I
I
have
make a motion to approve the agenda submitted.
I'll second that. We have a motion by Vice Mayor Purdock and a second by Councilman Kramer. At this point in time, we'll be voting electronically on this, so touch the screen, I guess. Madam Clerk, did it work?
Yours and Joyce's, how's it? So refresh your screen, click the refresh button.
Did mine come through nothing?
Did you push the, no, push the refresh.
Oh, sorry.
Ta-da.
All right.
All right.
All right, we'll go to presentations. Presentations of recognitions to employees and a volunteer. I need some help coming down to it. Very well. We got it. All right. First person is Vicki Leonard. Yes.
Hers is in the box. Hers is in the box.
Recognition for your excellent volunteer work at the city of Clearlake. Here's a little.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh my God, I don't know.
I do. I have a few words that I've put together for Vicki. Thank you.
So, Vicki has been volunteering at City Hall for well over 12 years. Yeah, 2008 was when you first came around and helped us. So she is a vital member of our team. Every Tuesday, she came to help with projects and contribute ideas to improve our processes and organize the. Vicki also helped organize community events such as parades, and many of you may not know, but Vicki used to play Mrs. Claus with her husband Chuck as Santa for many years. She also helps with organizing city Halloween and has put together hundreds, maybe thousands of bags of candy for city Halloween over the years. A plaque could never be large enough to list all the ways Vicki has contributed to our community with her volunteerism. We appreciate every file she has found, every archive you've done, and every Christmas cookie you've baked. Thank you.
Just a couple brief comments. So most of my tenure as city manager, Vicki hasn't really been volunteering because of COVID, but it's always been a pleasure to see you show up like clockwork every Tuesday, help organize files and generally keep us all on track. Thank you so much for all you've done over the many years. We miss you around here a lot. I know that you're one of the key people that share a deep passion for throwing away unnecessary clutter like me. So anytime you feel the urge, please come back.
Next person is Jessica Mendez. No, Steve Felder. Steve. Recognition. Thank you. There's something to say. All right, thank you.
Just briefly, on behalf of the police department, we want to thank Steve for his dedication and time with the police department. It's puts in a lot of hard work, and we're definitely happy to have him working with us, and we're glad he's been here for 5 years, and hopefully he has many more to go.
Okay, for 10 years. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Again, just want to state on behalf of the police department, I want to thank Quick for his time in the city. Put a lot of time in here. Done a lot of hard work over the last 10 years, and we definitely appreciate the work you've done.
Lee Lambert. You notice it, 5, 10, 15 years. Oh, my goodness. Thank you.
Again, we'd like to thank Lee Lambert for his time. 15 years is a lot of time to put in. There's not too many employees at the police department that have made it to that point. We're definitely appreciative of his work, his dedication to the city, whether it's at work or outside of work.
Thank you.
Not here.
Yes, he is. So you figured out it's right here.
Yes.
20 years.
That's another one. This one's a pretty big deal here. This is 20 years of her life she's dedicated to the city. Done a lot of work for the city. She's done things outside of work too. We are definitely really appreciative of the time she's dedicated to us. And we hope she has some more time to go, so.
Melissa, if you could go.
Hmm.
Come up here, please. This has 15 years.
So, Melissa, I have a few things to say, but I want you to stay there. I'm gonna really try to embarrass Melissa as much as possible.
They got that bathroom, looks so good, it's all rad.
Because Melissa's department organized this, she directed Tina not to get her an award. Fortunately, Tina was smart enough to understand that that wasn't an option. And so, I want to say that there's no one that's more dedicated to the city. And I really can't imagine where we'd be in this organization without you. She's always ready to step up and do more. No challenge is too great. Just a few years ago, Melissa really had no management responsibilities, but she was hungry to learn and to lead, and then has done a marvelous job developing the administrative services department. There are a few things more valuable as a manager than having a leadership team that is detail oriented and can always be counted on to implement direction without follow-up. And that's definitely Melissa. And so appreciate always being able to count on you with that work. I hope you have another 15 years in you. And I know we're both looking forward to you relinquishing your COVID police badge.
All right. You on? Yes. Jose Mendoza, is he here?
Yeah.
Congratulations, 5 years.
So Nate started with the city more than 5 years ago as a temp, and he became a permanent employee. Well, I don't know if it is permanent, but a full-time employee, and had all the benefits. And so a real interest in learning and growing professionally, and it was really neat. Someone who's been in this business for a long time, to see somebody who's gone as far as what they have in such a short time is amazing. He is now one of our leaders, with all that that implies, and he really seems to get, and I don't know, do you have a master's degree or something in business? I don't know that. Anyway, he seems to understand a lot about leadership, and understand that as a leader, when you lift people, I mean, that's the epitome of leadership. And so he takes the time to teach and train, give people an opportunity to grow. And we're a stronger team because of the effort that he has made with the people that he works with. And I've had an opportunity to work in a number of cities and with a lot of really strong teams. This is one of the best teams I've ever worked with. And I'm really proud of the work they're doing here. Small team, but they're very confident and they work really hard day in and day out. And Jose is a great example of that. We're lucky to have him. I hope you know that. And it's been a real pleasure to be able to work with you. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Chris. Hello. Hello. You know, sir, thank you. Congratulations, 5 years.
I really want to thank Officer Kelleher. He's 5 years in with us, and in 5 years, he's done a lot. He's done a lot more than than is expected of him, puts in a lot of work. Definitely does everything he's asked, goes out of his way to do a good job, and help people in the community. So we're definitely do the work, and we'll have a lot more years out of it. Good.
Is she here? She's not? Yeah, I have. Certificate of appreciation to Richard Moore. James Hopkins. James. Thank you, James, for all your work.
Photo real quick. Jim puts in a lot of time with the police department. He does a little bit of everything. He is always eager to do different projects and willing to help out. So we definitely appreciate the work and he's been doing for us for quite a long time. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much for all the work.
Yes, she's
You have no problem.
Yana?
Donna.
So we want to thank you for the work that you do doing Yana. It's important. I know you're not here as often, but you're out there making contact with people, helping, people that don't have someone to talk to, quite a few times a week. So I guarantee those people will really appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Buddy Carter. Dorothy Carter.
That's why we need you, Nikki, see?
Raj Marco.
He's not here.
John Gwynn.
Yes. Dawn.
Yeah. Thank you for all the work you do in the city. Again, thank you very much for all.
Thank you. We appreciate the work you guys do. Thank you.
Mike Zello.
Not here.
Elliot McKay.
He's not here.
Gary Lovateta. Elizabeth Kelly. Moses Zapata. Marty Foltz.
Yes.
You must be really sad. Thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you.
Again, we'd like to thank Marty. She definitely helped us out a lot, does a lot of different things, and with us for quite a while now. And we're definitely appreciative of the time she puts in with us.
Donna.
Okay. And with Lana.
Thank you.
Thank you both for doing that.
It is. All the volunteers that help us, thank you so much. We couldn't do it, we can't run the city without you guys, so we really appreciate it. Everybody.
Thank you, Nikki.
Okay, go to item number 2 of presentations. Presentation of a proclamation declaring January 2022 as Human Trafficking Awareness Month. I believe we have somebody in Zoom for us to speak to this item, Madam Clerk.
Yes, we do. One moment. And Lisa Morrow is here to accept on behalf of Lake Family Resource Center. She is via Zoom.
Hello, all. It's Lisa at Lake Family Resource Center.
Lisa. All right, I will read the proclamation. Human Trafficking Awareness Month, January 2022. Whereas human trafficking is a serious crime that affects people of all races, age, and gender, and whereas human trafficking is a borderless crime against individuals that violates the most basic human right and deprives victims of human dignity and denies freedom to 32 million people around the world. And whereas human trafficking is the fastest growing criminal industry globally, and whereas California ranks third among the states in the number of potential reports of human trafficking, and whereas a serious form of human trafficking involves the exploitation of children and youth for commercial sex, that it is imperative that our young people and their families learn how to recognize risk and resist predators who use coercion and threats to manipulate children and young adults into sex and laboring trafficking. And whereas Lake Family Resource Center is instrumental in leading the way in the county of Lake in addressing human trafficking by providing 24-hour hotline services and continuing support, advocacy, and accompaniment to survivors. And whereas preventing human trafficking in Lake County includes active, public, and private effort to help recognize and acknowledge existence. And it is time for all of us to start conversations, take appropriate actions, and support one another to create a safer environment for all residents. And whereas many organizations such as the District Attorney's Office, the Sheriff's Office, Lake Fort Police Department, Clearlake Police Department, and Lake Family Resource Center are committed to ending human trafficking in Lake County and provide essential crisis intervention and prevention services to all members of our community. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the month of January 2022 is designated as Human Trafficking Awareness Month in the city of Clearlake. And our community is urged to support the efforts of the agencies assisting victims of human trafficking and urge all local governments, school, businesses, and community members to be aware and report any suspicious activity to local police departments and help shine the light on traffic. Signed by me, date January 6, 2022. All right.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Lisa.
good. Sorry. Yes, this is Lisa, Lake Family Resource Center. Thank you very much on behalf of our organization and all of those in our community that are working hard to combat human trafficking. Just a few global statistics for you that you may not be aware of. 27 million adults, 13 million children worldwide are affected by human trafficking, both sexual and labor trafficking. Human trafficking is the second largest criminal industry worldwide due to the drug cartel, and $32 billion a year. $32 billion a year in the US and $150 billion worldwide is the cost of the human trafficking. Our agency has served 18 clients over the past 12 months. has provided over 1,100 different types of services. And the breakdown of those clients include 5 labor trafficking victims and 13 sex trafficking survivors. So we are very pleased and grateful to the city of Clearlake for not only their support in this, but I think I have mentioned at previous proclamations that Chief White was instrumental in assisting us when we applied for the funding for this program. So again, thank you very much. We are in our 3rd year of a three-year grant, and we'll be looking to reapply for those dollars in the coming year, and we'll also be looking to you all for support. Some events that are coming up in the month of January, Susie Q's Donuts are making blue donuts. Blue is the awareness color. And so go down to Susie Q's and get your blue donuts, and a portion of their proceeds will be donated back to the human trafficking program. We have some new banners that have been designed, and they are on display on 11th Street in Lakeport and at our Kelseyville office. And we also have some blue ribbons stenciled on some business windows around the lake that have agreed to a pledge to end trafficking in Lake County. And then last but certainly not least, we do have a radio show that will be presenting on January 20th at 2 p.m. on KPFC. And the topic of the day will be our human trafficking program. So those are just a few of the highlights of things that we have going on. Again, thank you all for your support of not only Lake Family Resource Center, but our human trafficking program in particular this month.
Thank you very much, Lisa. We really appreciate your.
Thank you.
The council.
Thank you very much.
All right. We'll go now to public comment. This is the time for any member of the public to address the city council on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought before under public comment. The council cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed on the next available agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on each agenda item. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. We have one request here in the chamber, Neil Koch. Would you please come forward, sir?
Who am I addressing?
All of us.
Okay.
Okay. Just use it. Please state your name.
My name is Neil Coach. I actually live in Santa Rosa, but I've had rentals in Clearlake for about 15 years. And everything's gone really well. We keep everything really nice in our rentals. That's what I prefer, and we really screen hard to get good tenants. I'm not here to complain about anything. I do appreciate the help I've had from code enforcement a few times. I've had to request code enforcement, like neighbors close by or something causing problems and whatnot. And then also, I have 2 rentals right now that are vacant for about 3 months on 4th Street. One up at the end by Bush, and the other one close to Sonoma. And then right in between, there's that, I'm sure all of you know about the illegal wrecking yard and some encampments there. And I have talked to code enforcement. I filled out a form about it. And I know they tried to kind of get rid of some of it, and then it keeps coming back. But whenever my property manager wants to show the properties, the people just aren't interested. It kind of scares some of them. And then also, I've also had requests at times from Public Works. They've done some things, street repairs and stuff that I've asked for, and had a few like almost emergencies where a road is washed out up against the driveway and people couldn't get in the driveway. They've done an excellent job. But then again, up at the end of Bush, by Bush, going up the hill, they repaired that about 5 years ago. They did an excellent job. They rolled it, compacted, they used ground up asphalt to do it. It's held up really well, but it's kind of deteriorating in kind of a bad way. And then down at the bottom of the hill there on 4th Street, there is a mud hole that when it rains, it fills up. It is pretty deep, and it actually covers the whole roadway. And I just like if somebody could eventually remedy some of these things. I am really concerned about the wrecking yard or whatever you want to call it in there, and people keep tearing cars apart. And just like some help on something, that'd be good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Any more public comment here? Not there anyone on the Zoom that have any public comment, Madam Clerk?
If there are any public comments in the Zoom meeting, please raise your hand.
I think Barbara will have her hand raised.
Okay. Barbara Christwich, do you have public comment?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'll read my public comment. I'm Barbara Christwitz. I live at 3568 Vista Street in Clearlake. I understand that our city is considering allowing a large project that will require a great deal of water, which will come from the north end, which will come from the north end of the city of Clearlake, which includes the Burns Valley area. I was also told that the hydrology report was based on rather outdated research that may or may not be.
Barbara, I believe this is an agenda item. You might want to hold the comments.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can hold it if you want me to.
Great, please.
Okay, I'll go off and then I'll come back on at that time.
This is item number 12
Okay,
that
thanks.
we'll be discussing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
No problem. All right, anybody else on Zoom that might have public comment? If not, we go to the consent agenda. By council that wants to comment on this or pull it, if not, we'll start from open public hearing and even the public wants to any of the items on that comment. Not, we'll bring it back to the council, entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we discuss agenda as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Kramer. Second. We have a second by Councilman Claffey. We'll open up the voting, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor, yours is not showing.
There you go.
Okay, great.
All voting completed, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Okay, good. Item number 12, public hearing. Consideration of appeal AP 2021-04 of the Planning Commission approval of conditional use permit application CUP 2021-05 through 08 and approval of the corresponding negative declaration IS 2021-02 for commercial cannabis operations located at 121585 Arlington, New York. Mr. City Manager, do you have to present this out to the council?
Senior planner Roberts is going to present the kind of an overview of the process. Guess you'll need to decide whether you want to have the applicant go first or the applicant. So give me just a second to get the presentation.
That's a good question. Would we be able to have a table where we just spread some things out?
We are not set up for this point.
Yes, we'll bring.
If you want this, or you want to pull that table around. That table right there. Yes. We'll pull the table around, but then we'll have a staff report first. Mr. Hughes, and then you can, the public, when we open it to the public, then you can make your presentation. Thanks. All right, Mark. Continue with your stuff.
So, good evening, everybody. I'm just going to, previously mentioned, give a brief overview of the project itself. And we have the appellant, Dave Hughes, and the applicant, and Representative Richard Knoll, who will go into more detail on the project itself. So, the project's for Onward Mills, approximately 21.25 acres. The zoning is industrial, commercial cannabis district, and the CB overlay district. So the type of permits we're going for is manufacturing, post cultivation, processing, distribution, and retail.
Okay, so just a quick overview of the environmental analysis. With the normal process, notice of intent was published in the local newspaper. The notice is sent to the property owner within 600 feet of the project parcel and circulated for agency review. There were no public comments received on the environmental document. During this process, we received comments from 5 different agencies listed there. So the planning commission approved the project, all the use permits on November 9th. You have all the stuff in the packet, so we really need to go into that a lot. There were a lot of concerns about water, and the planning commission and the environmental document relied on the technical memorandum from North Point Consulting Group. Here's kind of some key language from that report that this project's demand is approximately 0.1% of the usable storage capacity of the groundwater basin. There were no public comments or participation regarding the project at the planning commission meeting, and the planning commission approved the project. So on November 15th, David Hughes filed an appeal of the project that was submitted, timely. And I'm sure Mr. Hughes will go over the details of his appeal, but it's primarily based on the water availability of the project and impacts to Burns Valley. Of course, the applicant is prepared to submit a rebuttal. They have some slides and improvements they would like to go through. There is a rebuttal letter that's included in the staff report packet, which I'm sure all the council have reviewed. So, really 3 options. So there's 2 resolutions in the packet, both with the same number, but one is a resolution denying the appeal and upholding the planning commission decision. The other one is a resolution approving the appeal and revoking the planning commission approval of the project. And then, of course, if the council wanted to, they could provide some alternative direction, like delay the project to a different time. Based on the information that's been submitted, thus far, we haven't seen any specific information that we would indicate a significant impact on the environment, which has not already been addressed in the negative declaration. And so staff's recommending denial. And so with that, we turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have any questions from the council or staff? If not, we would like to hear for the Use the fuel person. How?
Can we get a couple chairs? You're gonna need to talk at the microphone.
Yes, we need to talk to Michael.
Can I get some chairs to go around the table?
Please proceed. Remember, that after your appeal, everybody has to be there.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
are you limiting comment to 3 minutes?
Not from the top, no.
But public comment after?
Yeah.
Okay.
David, you're gonna have to speak into the
You
microphone.
have to speak in the microphone because people on Zoom want to hear it too.
I think Dave Hughes, and I filed the appeal, but there are right now approximately 30 property owners in the Burns Valley Basin that are part of this. And so I'm actually appealing for the neighborhood that's called. When I filed the appeal, we had about 11 property owners involved. Now we've got about 30. Before I go any further, I have a couple of questions. One is, I received an email from the city, meetings next week. Click on the link. January 6th, Planning Commission, no agenda, no packet. I got that on the 1st of January. On the 3rd of January at 4:30, I got another email. Went to the page and the packet was there. My question is there a legal number of days that, I mean, I get an email with nothing in it. And I get an email with the packet in it. Are we supposed to be notified or given the packet so many days before the hearing, like 5 days or 7 days before the hearing? Why do I get an email with nothing on it? And then I get an email with the packet. I'm just curious. That's a question. Because that's happened a few times on other subjects.
I don't know the answer.
Would you like me to address? I mean, so there's a new system, so we don't send the packet out anymore, because in most cases it's too large anyway. So you get an email notifying you that you can go to the website and look at the packet. So the legal requirement of the Brown Act is that the agenda with the items is posted 72 hours before the meeting. In addition, for a hearing like this, it has been publicly noticed as required in the newspaper and the record meeting. And so that's the requirement. So the packet is included in the email anymore. You actually have to go to the website.
Yeah, and that's, again, the only reason I ask questions, I get the email on the 1st, there's nothing there. So I don't know why we're sending it on the 1st, but you know, on the 3rd, I get another email and the packet's there. So I'm just curious if you're supposed to mail it like 5 days before or 3 days before. You mentioned 72 hours, and if that's the law, then that's fine.
Let's proceed with your appeal.
The other thing I'd like to talk about before we go any further is I sent an email to Mr. Roberts and Mr. Flora asking for a continuation of this hearing. The answer I got back was, hey, you filed your appeal on November 15th. You've had plenty of time. Personally, it took us a while to get organized in the neighborhood. We're more organized now. As I mentioned to Mr. Flora, I'm still trying to get information. As an example, I tried to get a hold of somebody at the planning department Monday to request some information, and I was told it'll take about 10 days to get an answer. The county was closed last week, so was the city for that matter. And the holidays created problems. So we had 2 weeks where we were kind of stymied. We had people working on the project on our side, on vacation for Christmas, and then the city and county were closed for a week. So
Can I interrupt you? You filed the appeal on November 15th.
yeah, I said that. And Alan Flores said I've had plenty of time, and I'm saying I haven't had. So I've asked for a continuance. To me, as the appellant, we should be given some consideration to make sure we have everything we need to present our appeal. There are still some things I'd like to have, but I've asked for a continuation, and I'm asking for one now.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to provide some clarifying response to this. So I don't think that that interpretation of the email that I sent is accurate. I did remind you that it was filed on November 15th, but what was told is that this is a publicly noticed hearing. It's already been noticed in the newspaper. So at this point, the city council is legally required to have the public hearing and open it. But you can certainly request that the city council continue it and give you more time if you would like. That's at their discretion. But it was not, you've had enough time. This is your only option. We're legally required to have this discussion.
well, and I didn't even imply that was our only option. I mean, you said we've had sufficient time, and probably we have. We don't have the resources that the applicant does and the experts that the applicant does, and that creates problems because it's people like me doing it. So I guess I'm requesting a continuance for a couple of weeks so we can gather more information.
I suggest you please go on with your presentation to see if you feel council will support to continue this.
That's what the problem is. He doesn't have-
You don't have
doesn't
enough.
have all of the information, is that right?
Well, there's some more information that I'm trying to gather. As an example, I've requested from the planning department at the county all the cannabis use permits up Ogden Canyon on the east side of the highway between Highway 53 and extending up to Junction Plaza Road. I was told there are 5. Whether they're all 5 legal, whether they're all 5 actively growing, I don't know. I know there's one illegal grow there that she's been growing for 10 years. That's some of the information that I was told Monday. It's going to take about 10 days to get it. The person that really does it's on vacation this week, was on vacation last week. So, I mean, that's just one small example of information I'm trying to give because I think it's relevant. I guess other than that, I mean, it's just, there's other information I'm trying to do and better organize. But like I said, we don't have the resources and the experts and the money to pay them. We have to do it ourselves.
I like this, you're done with your appeal with this one, you asked for to do that, correct?
Pardon me?
You're done explaining your appeal and you want to continue. That's what you want.
Well, if you don't want to grant me a continuation, then I suppose I have to proceed with what I do have. So again, I'm asking for the continuation. I imagine this is the time to grant it if you're going to, if you're not.
We'll bring it back to the council. Councilman Overton.
Okay, so I guess one of my questions is where were you at the planning commission stage? Why were you not there?
I found out about the hearing in the Lake County News next day.
The next day after the,
Yes. That's why I wasn't here.
okay, because I was like, this
That's like,
should have been at the.
it's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was happening. I guess I'm more than 600 feet away.
Yeah.
I don't read the paper all the time.
What about all the other people that are closer? And nobody, nobody showed up and nobody sent in letters,
We
so
weren't aware of it.
none of the neighbors were aware this was happening.
I made them aware of it after I found out.
Was there nobody within 600 feet of residents, may I ask, our administrator?
Is that?
Residence wise, is there people within 600 feet of this?
Well, there are, but
facility?
it doesn't stretch, I don't think, across the highway to
No.
Burns Valley Road. I mean, over in Burns Valley area. It's the furthest northeastern parcel in the city limit.
And they're mostly acreage parcels. So this parcel has 600 feet of frontage on Ogden Canyon Road. That's the only person you know of.
I have a suggestion. Our city attorney, can you kind of direct a procedural down here? We want to give everybody the right. We have also applicant here too that probably
Sure.
wants to address things, so I just want to do it right.
So I think procedurally, this was correct in terms of notice. Notice has been done correctly. I think now it's a matter of the council's discretion whether you want to grant a postponement or you want to go ahead and continue to hear. He certainly has the right to present his case no matter what, and so do the other parties that want to make a public comment. But I think if you're going to go ahead and grant an extension, they're probably likely not going to want to present tonight. They'll just wait for the next meeting. I think it's purely within discretion.
Would this be a continuation?
Correct. So as Mr. Fuller mentioned, we noticed it, spent the money in the paper, and so what we'll do is we will continue to a date certain, so we don't have to repost it again. So whatever the next council meeting is, or whatever day we want to pick, that's when it would go to. And we have to repost it and put it back in.
It will be, that's the council.
Yes, another
Just
question.
1 second. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Hughes, are your information that you need to gather, you say you can have it for sure in 2 weeks?
I would think so, yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. I mean, like the information I requested today, they said I could have it in 10 days or less from today.
And you're still, not gonna ask for it.
Okay.
You're looking
And so
for
that,
2 weeks and no more continuation.
I would not expect to ask for another, even if I thought I should, I would.
Councilman Platt,
I'm asking for it today, and I think it's a courtesy that if the council extends that, I certainly wouldn't show up again and ask for another.
You're gonna be in the expense to us and extending it, continuing it, expense to the city.
that's question.
Well, yeah, there is an expense, of course, to our applicants. That's a concern, but I am a little certain because I too felt with the closure of the city, closure of the county for a week, you can't conduct business. I think Mr. Hughes has a good argument there.
Applicant, if you have any comment, please.
That's fine, yeah. In fact, I listened to his presentation if he wants to give it.
Please state your name.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Richard Knoll. I'm a planning consultant representing Ogden Hills Holdings Limited, or excuse me, LLC. And we are opposed to granting an extension. It's really kind of a hardship to the applicants who are coming from out of town and who have really provided the city with all of the documentation and application materials when requested, and really should not be penalized for the lack of preparation by the appellant. There was no one present at the November Planning Commission meeting, no comments received. Through no fault of the applicants. And the fact that they've had almost 2 months to prepare is really adequate time to address the issues. And I just want to point out, we have reached out to the applicant or to the appellant. There have been several discussions with the appellant about the issues. There's been discussion since the November Planning Commission meeting in an attempt to figure out, okay, what are the concerns about this project? We really got nothing. We didn't get any information to speak of at all. In addition to the Planning Commission notice that was published in the local newspaper, presumably, I guess that's how the city does it. Notice went out to the surrounding property owners.
But there was also a prior notice concerning the CEQA initial study that was made. So there has been a tremendous amount of public notice provided. The record is open and available. We have provided 3 different water hydrology, water availability reports to the city. It's good information. We just are, we're kind of flabbergasted, frankly, that there's been a request for a continuance at the 11th hour. So we would oppose a continuance at this point.
Can I respond?
We have some other people on Zoom that.
Can I respond to that?
You just, we have one of like some more. Anybody on Zoom that wants to put their 2 cents in?
No hands raised on the Zoom.
We've got some public comment on this, right?
Oh.
Some correspondence on this.
Perhaps now there are hands raised on the Zoom after I spoke. So for clarification, Mr. Mayor, is this public comment on the item or public comment on the continuance?
Really one and the same. I just think that if the council's inclined to grant a continuance, you probably have a lot of people on public comment who that should fall off. So you want to hear all the public comments and then make your decision, you certainly can.
I think I would like to.
Can I respond before the public comment?
Not yet. I believe we have
Okay.
some comments from Vicky. Crystal, I believe, sent a letter in.
I would like to read what I sent in, if that's okay.
We have also believed one from Billy Sally and Ken Lane, and also from Bobby Dutra, I believe.
Okay, my name is Vicki Crystal, and a 42-year resident of Lake County. The majority of the years I have been in Burns Valley area across from Ogden Canyon. Over the years, with the vineyards and cannabis grows that have moved in, we have slowly been losing our well water early in the summer. With the drought, it has been worse, and we have no idea how long this drought will last, and likely it will become worse with the climate change due to global warming. We have at times actually drawn silt into our drinking water. Our well is 180 feet deep, but we are also on one of the high points in Burns Valley in the neighborhood area. We have been conserving water for years by taking out our lawn, not flushing the toilets at every use, using drought-tolerant plants, and reusing household gray water. In 2010, we really started to notice a difference in the flow and amount. So in 2012, we began construction on a 10,500 gallon underground cistern for rainwater that helps us water our small vegetable garden. In 2021, we did not get enough rainwater even to fill the cistern and had to purchase water. So I asked, what are the long-term consequences? Are our aquifers sustainable with the added pressure of so many variants? With more cannabis growth in and around the neighborhood, I'm extremely concerned about the pesticides being used and leaching into the aquifer, which is our drinking water. I understand the need for the tax income. It's important. But at the expense of our drinking water, haven't we been trying to upgrade the reputation of Clearlake and Lake County? We are certainly putting a lot of wonderful work into areas all throughout the city of Clearlake. But what good are the improvements if we have no water? This should not be the concern of just the residents of Clearlake, but the whole of Lake County. we asked for a continuance. We asked for this to be suspended and put on hold, so together, the residents of the city can work together to determine a cumulative effect and sustainability of our aquifers, so they do not start to collapse. Let's take the time to do a current hydrology report to find out how to set up the jurisdiction and authority to maintain the sustainability and cumulative effects of the Burns Valley Aquifer, which was addressed in the 2006 reports. The Lake County Groundwater Management Plan with information from 1960 calculations and no more recent than 2000, that's 22 years ago, recommended the need to establish a jurisdiction for monitoring the water sustainability for the county. The public input that went into the report requesting jurisdictions to establish the water levels and the quality of water has not been done. We want to make sure that adding more and more agriculture can be supported before moving forward to make sure that we don't create an unsustainable situation. It's time to take a pause.
Thank you. Yeah, we believe we have some more public comment. Yeah. And good. What in the audience here?
And Mr. Mayor, Vicky and David were actually part of my presentation.
On the application, only you mentioned, it would have been probably more.
I said it on behalf of, my application said it on behalf of 11 other properties.
Please.
What I'm afraid is you're going to cut him off in 3 minutes.
I didn't.
I know, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
My name is David Goolsby, I'm a resident of Burns Valley Watershed. I've been studying the hydrology report for this project and feel it has failed to adequately address the long-term cumulative impact on the Burns Valley Watershed aquifer. The report claims that there is sufficient recharge on an annual basis to meet big projects demand, and so this farm will have no cumulative impact. That does not mean that when all the accumulated factors are accounted for, that it will not have an adverse effect on the Burns Valley aquifer and the source of water for the residents of the area. The bulk of the baseline information used for this analysis came from 2 reports published by the Lake County Watershed Protection District in 2006. Both of these documents used information that is now outdated, no longer accurate, or makes calculations based on old presumptions. For example, the Lake County Water Inventory and Analysis uses a calculated model for the available water storage capacity in the Burns Valley aquifer from the California Department of Resources dating back to 1960. That volume is assumed to be 1,400 acre feet. But how much of that is available to the residential wells that are less than 100 feet from the surface? We know based on experience that Scotts Valley has dropped in elevation significantly due to depleting the groundwater. Similar geologic shifts have occurred in the Central Valley, given that a number of new wells have been added since these reports were released, including the well on this property, that at least 3 vineyards have been planted and are watering. Other legal and illegal cannabis projects are in various stages of planning and construction and growing within the watershed. that we are in the middle of a major drought, that climate change is exacerbating our ability to predict future weather patterns. We don't know if soils and geologic formations have shifted or collapsed over this time frame, and a significant number of domestic water wells are reportedly not able to meet the current demand for water over the last 10 years, particularly from July until a deep soaking fall rain. And all of that suggests that a development pause may be appropriate so that new and more accurate data can be gathered to set a baseline for future development within the watershed. These factors are what is actually meant by cumulative impacts under CEQA. If these growths draw down the upper water level to below the average domestic well, should these residents have to pay to drill deeper wells? Only Big Valley recently has been able to map the water resources in their area. According to the 2006 documents, the majority of domestic wells are less than 100 feet deep. Yet the wells for this project, or the well for this project, is at 375 feet. I know the relatively new ag wells in the area are 114, 240, 340, 358, and 460 feet, meaning that they're pulling from deeper in the aquifer, which makes the typical shallower domestic wells more vulnerable. Ag wells on average use 17% more water during a dry year. We have had two of the lowest rainfall records during the last 7 years, dating back to 1895, including only 9.9 inches in 2020. When we calculate the cumulative draw of water from potential cannabis farms congregating on the east end of the aquifer, that the hydrology report suggests could draw 82 acre feet from the aquifer every year, that amounts to over 26,720,000 gallons annually.
You wrap it up.
I'm sorry,
Could you wrap it up?
I'm almost done. And that's almost 148,000 gallons a day during the growing season. California state law gives preference to domestic wells over ag users. In the predictions for the future from these 2006 reports, they suggest that from 2000 to 2040, the population will double, and ag water usage would correspondingly increase as well. And to handle this kind of growth from the groundwater needed to be studied. However, in all of the scenarios they considered for agriculture, none of them accounted for growing cannabis as a crop. We cannot continue to assume that if we have a water shortage, that we simply need to drill more and deeper wells. Water must be protected and preserved for future generations in a sustainable way. We need to systematically monitor a significant number of wells in this area to establish a new and accurate baseline for water levels year-round, and determine if water should even be allowed to be pumped out if the aquifer drops below a certain level. It cannot recharge adequately based on annual rainfall and threatens to access to domestic water for residents. This would also give us a reference levels that can trigger voluntary and mandatory conservation measures to ease demand. If the data actually proves that there is adequate capacity to support additional agriculture, within these parameters, then I would not object. But we cannot assume that just because there is a well on the property, that the owners are entitled to unlimited access to the water commons through the granting of this use permit. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. We'll move on. We got some comments mailed, emailed to us, correct?
Yes, I have an emailed comment from Deb Sally and Ken Ling, and I also have an emailed comment from Bobby Dutcher. Deb Sally and Ken Ling are on the Zoom with their hands raised.
Okay, we'll hear from them first.
For clarification, Mr. Mayor, is there a 3-minute time limit or?
Ken and Debbie, please state your case.
What?
The clerk's asking if you want to do a 3-minute time limit or unlimited.
Yes, the case has been made for what the issues are, so if you concur with, please keep it to 3 minutes.
Okay.
Hey, this is Deb Sally.
Go ahead.
Do you want me to go ahead? Okay. So I'm here with my husband, Ken Ling, and we have lived in the Burns Valley Water Basin area since 1995. A lot of the things that I was going to say have been said by Vicki and David, but I do want to just say that we truly believe that using data from a study that was done in 2006 is outdated. Something that I can add to that, the technical report from North Point Consulting Group Incorporated states that, quote, almost all the groundwater in the Burns Valley Basin is derived from rain that falls in the 12.5 square mile Burns Valley watershed drainage area, unquote. In that same report, the annual precipitation cited in attachment 3, Prism Precipitation 1895 to 2020, shows that in the Augulin Canyon area, rainfall has decreased dramatically since 2006. The precipitation data in the report shows an average annual rainfall of 33.8 inches for the 15 years from 1991 to 2005. The data from 2006 to 2020 shows an average of 25.6 inches. That's 24% lower. When we utilize the amount of rain measured in 2021 by our net atmo rain gauge, which is about a mile from the proposed site, the 15-year average drops to 24.4 inches. That's nearly a 28% drop in the annual rainfall. We've already talked about that there's been a lot more agricultural, both in vineyard and cannabis growing, probably mainly in our area since that 2006 report. And still, the project's effect on the water basin is being based on that data from 2006. We have a number of neighbors who have experienced problems with their wells, but none until about 2010. The first time we ever experienced any kind of problems was in 2019. So that's, there's just a considerable difference in what's going on in our watershed and in our water basin than what was going on in 2006. And we do believe that it's important that we get more data that's more recent and more apropos to what's happening now. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen to the rainfall average or temperatures here in Lake County in the future. But don't you think it's advisable that we would consider the recent trend as the best indication and how we should plan for our development in the future rather than relying on something from 2006? And we do hope that, that you will postpone this at least to look at some more recent data, and that if you do decide to go forward with it, that there is monitoring and really, like was said before, that there needs to be monitoring on an ongoing basis so that we have a realistic, real-time, up-to-date idea of what's happening in our watershed. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. You want to read Bobby Dutcher's comment? Ken, do you want to say something good?
No, I echo everything Debbie had said in there. I feel it's very important to get contemporary data to give a viable report on the water situation for any issuing of permits. So I agree with all that. I do.
Thank you.
Thank you for your.
Madam Clerk.
Okay. We do have other hands raised on the Zoom, but I can read Mr. Dutcher's comment. Okay. All right. We have an emailed comment by Bobby Dutcher who states, I see the cannabis project approved by the city's planning commission at 2185 Augulin Canyon Road is being appealed. The appeal lacks any credible facts that would make me think that the planning commission failed in their due diligence when considering this project. Since there is no evidence of any mistakes or error in judgments made by the planning commission, I don't see how this appeal can possibly be granted. Attached is the MLS advertisement for the property. This was published on public internet sites and given to the buyers. As you can see, the only use advertised for this property was cannabis. This is easily the highest and best use of the property. It is what the property has been zoned for. A denial of a cannabis project here basically renders the property worthless. What else is an owner to do with it? The argument about water use is the usual NIMBY complaint. Water aquifers are a complex subject, so no matter how much time and money the applicant might spend to prove their project will have little or no effect on a watershed, those with poor wells in the area will object to any new demands on the aquifers. I have sold many properties in this area. One of the reasons it is so popular is the quality of water. Some of my clients near this project have wells that produce over 100 GPM with excellent quality. Others have very poor production and low quality. Even in this watershed, there are many different aquifers under the surface, so an upstream neighbor using a good aquifer probably has no effect at all on a downstream neighbor far away. Last year, one of my clients drilled a well near Highway 53 that produced over 100 GPM. This was in a drought year with cannabis projects and vineyards nearby irrigating their crops. The Augulin Canyon watershed still has a lot of water available for project use, and the small project proposed for 2185 Augulin Canyon Road poses no threat to this. The city of Clearlake sold this property to the applicant with the full knowledge of what they intended to do. The applicant has followed all of the proper procedures to pursue their permit. City staff has worked closely with them. Your planning commission unanimously approved it. Granting this frivolous, unsubstantiated appeal will be outrageous. Thank you for your time. Bobby Dutcher.
Do we have some hand raised here in the public? Please, Mr. Stewart.
I'm Terry Stewart. I'm planning commissioner in the city of Clearlake, and I voted to approve this project based on the documentation that was presented. At the time of the vote, I felt very confident in the documentation that I was provided with and felt that it was reasonable, and the amount of water that was going to be consumed by this project was described to me by people that are in the water business but not affiliated with any type of project like this, or this project in particular, that the amount of water to be consumed by this project was described as infinitesimal. Even though it was over 500,000 gallons a year, and that sounds like a lot to us, to people in the water business, it sounds like not very much. So basically, I feel pretty confident. As a person who's dealt with cities and permits before, I certainly understand the point of people with wells in the area. And to address that, I would really like in the future, and I emailed more than one person in the city staff after this meeting, that in my opinion, a 600-foot notification is far inadequate. We need to notify people out, in my opinion, to 1,326 feet, which is 1/4 of a mile, because I know if I was a neighbor, I'd like to know about it. So I hope that the city adopts that in the future, and that before any other projects go out, the distance for notification will be increased. I understand from what they're saying now that it sounds like some of the studies are possibly outdated. That might have been helpful to know that at the time of the meeting. Personally, I don't feel it's really fair that these people put a lot of time and money in this, and it could be torpedoed at the last minute over stuff that might have already been presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anybody on Zoom?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. One moment. Karen Mantelli has a hand raised on the Zoom.
Please.
Go ahead, Karen Mantelli.
Yes, I have been listening to the discussions that have gone on here. And I do feel that you as the city council, do have a decision to make about how did the planning commission look at all the evidence that was presented to them, and how did they look at what staff had presented to them at the meeting, and any questions and would be answered. And I think you need to look at the fact that given the fact that even though there was a 600-foot notice, there's been a lot of public noticing. There's been a lot of public, not only at your site, at your website, but also in the paper and such. And if no comments had been received, if no letters had been received by individuals, the Planning Commission had the duty to be able to make their decision based upon all of that. That's all the record that is brought to them. So I personally, I guess, would agree that the Planning Commission didn't make a decision, and that there's been sufficient time, 2 months ago, that this decision was made for any appeal to be able to be ready to be presented to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? On Zoom?
Yes. Let's see. Next is Kathy. Kathy, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kathy Qualls. I live in the Burns Valley district. I've been listening as well. I disagree with some of the statements that, especially the lady that just spoke, because there may have been those notifications. A lot of us don't get the Record B. A lot of us don't get Lake County News. There's a lot of older people that live in this area that don't know how to use their iPads or whatever you want to use. I didn't know about this any sooner than David did. And I don't know all the numbers and statistics that everybody has given you. I mean, I think you've got a really big decision to make in front of you, because water rights have always been, from the days beginning in biblical times, so important. And are we willing to give up those rights to somebody that's from out of the area instead of the constituents that voted you in to protect us? Because that's what your job as a city council is to protect the people in the city that you represent. I get we need the tax dollars. We're a low income city, but there are other ways to bring tax dollars in besides drain our water system and let the people in the city of Clearlake think that you don't care about us anymore. You don't care about the general population anymore. You know, it doesn't seem fair to me that people can make statements like the realtor when he has a you know, he has his pole in the in the water, if you will. He's going to make money too, and it shouldn't be all about the money. It should be about the quality of the citizens that live here, that have supported this county, the city, for a long time. And the fact that these people have lived in Burns Valley for years. They've had wells that have worked. I did some research. I went into what the county has written on their water management page. And I would hope that you would grant at least a couple of weeks so that maybe you could, check into that yourself. It's very evident in there that it's a very outdated, they're going by outdated information, very outdated. And the typical waterfall seasons were the same back then. We are living in a different world today. Our ecosystem is different. And we may not get the kind of waters we used to get several years ago. And so therefore, is a cannabis production more important than the viability of being able to keep actually the city of Clearlake a viable entity? Because, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Can you wrap it up, please?
Sure. So anyway, like I said, I don't have any PhD behind my name. I'm just a local citizen, and I would really hope that you would consider at least a small duration of giving more time to the people that live in Burns Valley to prove their point. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional ones on Zoom, Madam Clerk?
Yes, we have Ed Roby.
Mr. Red Roby, please.
Mr. Roby, you only, okay, great.
There, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a couple of things. I'll try to make them quick. First of all, water law is a specialized thing, and most people don't realize that in California, domestic use trumps commercial use. Second, I've had to deal with a couple of similar situations to this, and I want to offer something that might be a solution, because I think that these neighbors have a valid concern. Now, I had a situation once where there was a vineyard wanted to go in, and there was a whole bunch of neighbors that lived along the vineyard, and they were concerned about their wells. And this is going to happen anytime you're out in a rural area where people are on wells. So they were hiring attorneys and getting ready to go to war with each other. And we sat down and worked out an arrangement whereby the developer agreed to pay for monitoring a couple of their wells, just as example wells, over a 5-year period. And the first thing they did was they measured the wells and established a baseline. And then the agreement was that if the wells went down, and I forget exactly how it was worded, a significant amount, a noticeable amount, when they were doing their irrigation on the vineyard, if it really impacted the wells, the vineyard owner agreed to stop irrigating. He had a hydrological report saying that he was going to be fine, and he believed it, and it was a good report, because what happened was they measured it. His vineyard didn't impact the wells. He didn't have to stop irrigating. And after 5 years, the neighbors relaxed and everybody was happy. So perhaps if they got a couple of weeks continuance, maybe they could work out something like that and get this show on the road. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any more on Zoom? There's some people here in the audience.
There are no further hands raised on Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Please, sir, you want to come forward? We'll consider Barbara.
Yes, thank you for hearing me. My name is Ralph Wheeler. I live at 3127 Highway 53 in the Burns Valley, Watershed area. One thing that Mr. Roby was just stating was they were dealing with current data. We don't want to as of that day, as of that year. Some of the information that has been brought forth has been like 20 years old. I'm sorry, maybe it's only 15, 16 years old. I work in healthcare, and my question to you is,
you come down with cancer and you want some response right now, you want a cure right now. Are you gonna go with 16-year-old data for what's gonna get me healthy? Or are you gonna go with like, what's the latest current state of the art? What's the current data? What's the medicine currently saying? Or are you gonna go with something that worked for, that didn't work for your grandpa 16 years ago and you got it, but you're gonna go with 16-year-old data? So you're gonna go with the current information? We need to update the watershed information on all that. You know, otherwise, you know, we have businesses in the community that are already up and leaving and gone. You know, current businesses that are in Clearlake, that are voting people and are there versus someone who has to come in from out of the area and represent, well, he's already taken care of. Okay, these are my neighbors, their constituents, the people that voted you in. Let's go with current data. Let's get up to date. Let's not go with old school, antiquated, rusty information. Okay, thank you.
All right. Let's see. Any additional ones on Zoom? If not, we'll have the applicant respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of the City Council. A lot of discussion here tonight about data, information, reports. Before we get into that, we do have a presentation that we'd like to make to the council and step back a little and talk about the project, the size, the scope. But before we do that, I would like to introduce my clients, the applicants. They're here, they were at the Planning Commission. They've actually been here before you on other matters. Brian Pensack, Kim Gardner, and Garrett Burdick are the applicants. And I'd also like to mention that we have Angie Dodd, the author of the 2 hydrology reports that have been presented to the city. She's standing by, and at the conclusion of my presentation on the project, I think it's critical that you hear from Angie. So we'll bring her in to respond to some of the comments that have been made tonight. So with that, we have a PowerPoint presentation.
Councilman Overton has a question.
I'm just curious, are we moving forward with this, or are we
I think
going to?
I would like to hear everybody, and then we can decide whether this is not information that's to proceed or to request to continue. Did the rest of the council do it?
I just want to make sure that we're,
Councilman Clappy, you have any thoughts on that?
I think we should decide whether or not we'll continue with before we go through with it.
because instead of get confusing if we're going to be waiting 2 weeks and then they're going to do this and then they're going to, I don't want to be doing this. So I have a couple of dates before you go forward.
Just a point of order, there's been a lot of public comment made already. We would like to respond to that public comment and give you a presentation on the project. So with that in mind, and before we get started, I actually have paper copies of this. I noted the last time that we were here that it's a little bit hard to see, so I've got copies of the PowerPoint that I'd like to just hand out there.
Clarify to the public that we are moving on with this the presentation, that we're not, haven't made a decision on whether we're going to continue this or not.
We'll continue on with his presentation, and we have not made a decision whether we're going to go on continuous or not. This is the applicant's rebuttal to the appeal. We have provided a letter as well. Hopefully you all had a chance to read and review that letter. Next slide, please. I think it's important to stress that in November, the City of Clearlake Planning Commission considered and approved the conditional use permit applications at 2185 Ogulin Canyon Road with numerous findings of fact. Next slide, please. Here are some of them. They relate to the CEQA mitigated negative declaration. They relate to the mitigation monitoring program, and they relate to specific approval of the project. I'm not going to repeat those. They're all part of the record, but the Planning Commission did a thorough job of reviewing the project. Next slide, please. Some of this you've already seen and heard. The site is a 21-acre parcel located at 2185. The project itself is really not that large. There are 3 buildings proposed, 2 5,000 square foot buildings and a 3,000 square foot building, and approximately about a third of an acre of greenhouses at 18,000 square feet. Relatively small in the world of cannabis cultivation. We can talk about the water use. It's, as mentioned by an earlier speaker or commenter, the amount of water actually being projected to be used is relatively small when compared to many other types of projects. The property is vacant. The proposed buildings will be architecturally pleasing metal structures. The greenhouses will comply with city architectural standards. Access to the site will be through a metal gate down on Ogulin Canyon Road and up an existing driveway to the center of the property where the buildings will be constructed. One of the things that I like to do and that we've done in this project is reviewed the city's use permit criteria. You've got in your zoning ordinance very specific criteria that speak to whether or not the proposed use at the size and intensity contemplated will provide a development that is necessary or desirable for and compatible with the neighborhood. And we provided suggested findings that support that information. This site was purchased from the city with the understanding that it was to be developed for cannabis. I'm not going to go through those findings, but I hope you get a chance to, because I think it's important to stress the fact that this project, based on the plan that we've provided, that we've submitted to the city, that's been reviewed by the Planning Commission, comply with the criteria specified in the city zoning ordinance. We've also addressed the criteria as to whether or not the use will be detrimental to the health, safety, convenience, and general welfare of persons residing or working in the vicinity of the project or in the community at large. And again, based on the size and intensity of the project, we feel that and the design of the project that in fact
there will be no detriment caused by this project. And we've actually got two different slides on this. It's, sorry, I should have moved on a little bit. Actually, yeah, this slide and then in the next. And then the following slide are all findings that we have provided to the city that speak to this issue of detriment. The third finding, the next slide, please, is whether or not the proposed use will comply with the applicable provisions of the zoning ordinance and whether or not the project is consistent with the policies and standards of the Clearlake General Plan. And again, we provided findings that that is the case. When we first applied for the use permit, the city actually did not request any information regarding water. And there's always been an assumption that because of the fact that there is not a community water system available in this area, that the water has to be provided via groundwater. And that is, just a fact. And so when the city was going through the environmental review process, there was a question about how much projected water is anticipated. So we provided initially a water use availability report that calculated the amount of water. It sounds like a lot, but the reality, as stated earlier, the amount of water projected for this use is not substantial. We then, very late in the game, basically got a request to provide a groundwater hydrology report, a much more technical report on groundwater availability. And so we went to North Point Consulting Group out of Arcata, Angie Dodd, PhD, water resource expert, really, who analyzed the groundwater situation using available data and provided that report to the city. And that was provided to the Planning Commission at the meeting or prior to the meeting on November 9th. So it was considered as part of the application. A follow-up technical memorandum was provided in response to the appeal and is in the packet as well. And again, I'd like to call on Angie Dodd, who is standing by to provide information concerning that. But I think it's important to mention that the conclusion is that the demand associated with the project at 2185 Aguilan Canyon Road represents only a small fraction, 0.3% of the total potential future demand in this aquifer, very small amount. The project will not adversely impact wells in the lower portion of the Burns Valley groundwater basin. This is coming from an expert in the field. And I wasn't really going to get into this, but I would like to talk about some land use analysis that we did in response to the appeal. We looked at what we understand the Burns Valley neighborhood to be. In other words, what are the dynamics going on within that neighborhood that might contribute to the issue? We're not necessarily saying there isn't an issue in that Burns Valley neighborhood north of the senior center. But when you begin to look at the dynamic land use characteristics in that neighborhood, there's a lot more going on than cannabis projects upstream or vineyards developed that are north of the project. And we can get into that if you'd like. We did look at that though. But suffice to say, I think it's important to point out that about 76% of that area, that Burns Valley neighborhood is developed. It's with primarily single-family homes. There's a lot of orchards. I'm talking about walnuts, apparently, mostly walnuts. There's a lot of groundwater demand. Much of the area is not provided with community water. So most of those property owners are relying upon wells. Is that contributing to the problem? We don't necessarily know, but I think the point is that there's a lot more going on than essentially pointing at a small cannabis facilities project at 2185 Ogden Canyon Road. So moving on now to the next slide. This is just a site plan of the project. You probably have seen this. It shows the 3 buildings and the proposed greenhouses to the south there. Next slide, please. This is a little more detail concerning the proposed buildings and how they're going to be placed on the property, in the parking area and the loading and so forth, water tanks, etc. Next slide, please. This is the plan associated with the proposed greenhouses. It shows the driveway extending up the hill. Next slide, please. This is a storm drainage preliminary grading plan that identifies the best management practices that are being proposed associated with the project. Next slide, please. This is a depiction of the proposed buildings that will be built on the site. Next slide. The city did request, and we provided, floor plan details. This is the floor plan for a couple of the buildings. Next slide, please. I guess this is one of the other larger, one of the 5,000 square foot buildings. Next slide, please. This is the small office and retail delivery area that is being proposed. And this is a depiction of the proposed greenhouses. And then we've got a couple of, well, this is our conclusion. If you could go back to the conclusion statement, please. The proposed project at 2185 Ogden Canyon Road complies with the provisions of the Clearlake Municipal Code dealing with use permits. Based on the staff recommendation, the Planning Commission voted to approve the project subject to conditions and adopted supporting findings. There is no evidence presented by the appellant that the cannabis facilities project at 2185 will impact water wells in the area. The applicant has provided the city with 2 technical memorandums regarding groundwater, indicating that the proposed project's water use will have little to no cumulative impact on the surrounding area. With respect, or we respectfully request that the city council consider the facts, respect the diligence and work put into the project by city staff and by the Planning Commission, deny the appeal and uphold the decision of the Planning Commission to approve the conditional use permits. And we thank you for your consideration. And there are a couple of other slides just real quickly here. This is just a stock photo of what the greenhouses might look like. There's one more stock photo of greenhouses with a fan unit. And then next slide is just a depiction of residential structures in the neighborhood. These are the yellow pins are some of the houses or the houses within a proximity to the site. There aren't very many in close proximity. The project is right there in the center. And then the final item is this is an odor management statement in the event that there are any issues associated with odor generation. This is the procedures and policies that will be followed to address that issue. So at this point, what I'd like to do is ask Angie Dodd to make some comments and responses to some of the statements that have been made. So I thank you for your time.
Hi, this is Angie Dodd with North Point Consulting Group. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, good evening. I'm glad I can speak tonight on this project. I want to preface everything I'm saying that I was hired specifically for this project to determine if this project itself would have a cumulative impact on the Burns Valley Basin. There have been multiple comments that the analyses presented by me were based on antiquated data. So yes, the aquifer storage capacity was determined and estimated by the Department of Water Resources and a reference dated 1960. That's a geologic formation, which is hundreds to hundreds of thousands of years. When you talk about a time scale, that's the only thing that references a 1960 date as the aquifer storage capacity, which would not have changed in that short period of time. The Lake County groundwater hydrology study was dated 2006. The only thing pulled out of that 2006 study was the estimated use for agriculture and groundwater in 2006. And the geologic information, again, which doesn't change significantly over time over a short period. In the original hydrology study I prepared, I tried to address that by estimating the potential, can't see my air quotes, future cannabis cultivation that could possibly be approved in the Burns Valley Basin based on Lake County land use data. But again, that was trying to address the antiquated nature of the 2006 hydrology plan. This project itself uses 1.8 acre feet of what will propose 1.8 acre feet of water demand. That's for a half an acre of cultivation plus employee use, all accounted in that amount. Not antiquated is the estimation of aquifer recharge over the project site. The parcel size is 23 acres. The estimated aquifer recharge over that acreage was 4.2 acre feet during a dry year, which the minimum year on record was 6.4 inches. It may be, that was, I can't remember what, I think that was in 2013. And based on that, it has the potential recharge just of the parcel itself, not the entire aquifer, so just the contributing area associated with the project, was 4.2 acre feet, which exceeds the projected demand of 1 acre feet, justifying that the project has sufficient recharge, even during a dry year. The usable storage capacity in the basin is 1,400 acre feet. The project's demand is only 0.1% of that usable storage capacity. So based on that, the project itself can justifiably argue that it would not have a cumulative impact on the overall basin. But with the appellant's comments and the applicant had asked me to address the additional comments that were made. So I took to heart the 2006 date of the Lake County Groundwater Hydrology Management Plan, or sorry, just Groundwater Management Plan. And I looked and, the appellant mentioned the amount of acreage of vineyards in the Burns Valley Basin. And I also looked at the orchards in the basin. And if you look at the current, just a rough estimate, there's about 450 acres of vineyards. And there are about 150 acres of orchards in Burns Valley. And if you look at the potential water use of those, that's about 555 acre feet per year, which does exceed what was presented in the 2006 Lake County Groundwater Management Plan. So in my response to the appeal comments on the request of the applicant to address that, I did account for that 2006 nature of the basin. But when you look at the existing vineyards and orchards, we're talking at 2185 Ogling Canyon, only a half an acre project. So it's a small fraction of what's already in the basin. There's also within the basin a state of California groundwater monitoring well at 177 feet deep. And if you look at the record, so what that monitoring, it's a California groundwater monitoring program well. And what that well monitors over time is the aquifer drawdown in the fall and the spring recharge. And over time, there has not been a decreasing or an increasing trend in that monitoring well. And that well is reported through fall of 2020. They do not have a fall of 2021. I'm sure you would see it during this extreme drought, you'd see a lower amount in that well. Just going through the conclusions of the response to the appeal, again, the purpose of the hydrology report for this project is specifically the cumulative impacts associated with this project. The main sources of groundwater in the Burns Valley groundwater basin are the alluvium formation and the lower lake formation. The alluvium formation is the shallower formation. It's an unconfined aquifer that is truly impacted by lack of rainfall, more likely than the deeper alluvium in which this well is located. The estimate of aquifer storage capacity in the basin was based on the upper alluvium, not necessarily the lower lake formation. So there could be, looking at the existing well logs, larger amount of storage than what was reported in the 2006 groundwater management plan for the county. Longer term groundwater monitoring in the basin at the well that the state of California monitors shows a stable trend in groundwater levels within the deeper formation with consistent recharge during each annual wet season, even during dry years with low annual precipitation. Although there has been anecdotal evidence of wells going dry, I was not provided with any of the location of these wells or information as to why or as to where they are in the water storage formation. So I couldn't make any judgment of what was causing these wells to lose productivity. There are many reasons why a well can lose productivity. You can have sediment buildup in a well that plugs the perforations. If a well owner isn't maintaining the pump can have problems. Granted, during times of drought, that's another reason why wells can lose productivity. And yes, in 2021, Lake County was experiencing an extreme drought. So I'm not surprised that folks have been experiencing lower capacity in their wells. The existing vineyards and the existing proposed cannabis projects are located outside of the alluvial valley in the most upper half of the Burns Valley groundwater basin. The dominant demand in the basin is agriculture. If you look at the response to the appeal hydrology report, I did go and grab the cultivation projects that I could find that are in the system and have been approved. There are 6 projects that either have been approved or have a CEQA document that is in circulation or soon to go to hearing, and estimated the approximate annual water demand of those cultivation projects. So I can get an estimate of the potential future demand in the basin, including the existing vineyards, including the orchards, and including the potential cannabis. And the total estimate is about 661 acre feet per year. And the usable storage capacity is 1,400 acre feet per year. So the potential future demand is 47% of that usable storage capacity. When you look at this project, which is what I was asked to do, is look at this project represents only a small fraction, 0.1% of the usable storage capacity in the basin, only 0.3% of that total potential future demand in the basin. So of that 661.6 acre feet of vineyards, orchards, and potential future cannabis, this project is only 0.3% of that. The total demand associated with the projects that I know that are cannabis projects that I mentioned above is about 2.6% of the usable storage capacity of the Burns Valley Groundwater Basin, and only 6% of the future demand. So it's really the existing vineyards, the existing orchards, and I didn't even address the existing residential use. There are 120 residential parcels outside of the area in Clearlake that is provided through a water district. An average residential home uses 300 gallons per day. That multiplied by 365 days per year, that's about 40 acre feet per year. So we're looking at 700 acre feet per year of total potential demand in the basin, which is half of the usable storage capacity. I know that's a lot of numbers. Again, my purpose is to demonstrate that the project itself doesn't have a cumulative impact. It's really only 0.1% of the usable storage capacity. It's a fraction of the potential future demand. So based on all of that, it would not have a cumulative impact on the aquifer itself, on the lower formation that it's in. I think what a lot of folks are talking about are issues associated with drought and potential policy that would assess drought conditions. I am a fan of monitoring. I think having an additional monitoring wells or suggesting some sort of monitoring program would be beneficial to the basin. I think having a monitoring well at multiple elevations in the basin would be helpful rather than just the one existing well in the deeper formation. And then I think helping residents understand why their wells are losing production. Is it because we're in a drought? Is it something else going on with the well itself? Is it something going on with the pump? I think that would be very helpful to help the constituents in the city of Clearlake. But I'm here to answer any additional questions if you have any. Thank you.
Council, have any questions for Mr. Doug?
Yeah, one.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes, thank you. Is it doctor?
Yes, sir. Angie is fine.
Okay. Angie, you mentioned 450 acres of vineyard, which of course has been planted in the last few years, and 150 acres of orchard. And are you figuring that groundwater, that demand? Are you figuring that the orchard, I think at 0.5 acre feet and the orchard at 2.2 acre feet per acre? Is that
yeah, so there's a water forecast document that was done for Lake County that projected great vineyards use 0.5 acre feet per year and orchards 2.2 acre feet per year. So yes, I based it on those. And I did look at Google Earth imagery over time. A lot of those vineyards, the orchards have lessened over time, the surface area, but the vineyards have been there since about, Google Earth imagery goes back to 1985 or 1995. I can't remember which one, or 1985. And they've been there since 1985.
So to be clear, the 681 acre feet total demand includes the 450 acres of vineyard and 150 acres of orchard at those low rates?
Yes.
Well, they've probably taken care of 100 acres of those orchards over the past few years. Not one of them is irrigated.
I wasn't sure. I wanted to be conservative.
I have another question. So are you saying that the wells, the later wells, They're on a different aquifer than the ones that are for the residences?
It just depends. You know, one of the speakers tonight did mention that their well was deeper, so they would be located in the lower formation. But a lot of the wells are in the shallower formation. It's really hard to tell on a case-by-case basis what would be making a well lose productivity. The California groundwater monitoring well is at 177 feet. Its bottom is at 177 feet, so it is at a deeper elevation, and it does show annual recharge over the years. Unfortunately, I don't have a fall 2021 reading of that well. So, you know, I expect it to be lower for 2021 because we are in a severe drought. So I'm not surprised that people are feeling the effects of a drought. But this project itself, the water demand is so low compared to the overall water use in the basin.
Any other council questions? No.
Mayor, in terms of procedure, I just want to clarify. You've had the appellant, Mr. Hughes, had his first presentation at the applicant, made his presentation, and then the appellant would have an opportunity for a brief rebuttal to conclude.
I have not given a presentation. I asked for a continuance.
Okay. We wanted to hear what everybody else is. Are you ready to give a presentation, or are you just want to continue?
I'd like to have a decision on the continuance. I mean, if you guys want to do it, we'll do it, but I'd like to have a continuance. And I think the council owes it to us to give us more time. 2 weeks is not going to make any difference to the applicant. There's a risk being in business. Some of that's delay, some of it's costs you didn't realize you might have. There's a lot of things going into business that you risk.
I think we need to have Mr. Hughes step to the microphone if you're going to allow
Yes.
us off this, so everyone's online can hear too.
Can you repeat that in the microphone so everybody can hear it?
Do I need to start over?
Just make your statement, what you just made.
Okay. Again, I guess first of all, I'd still like to have the continuance, and I'd like to have a decision on the continuance. I did not give a presentation yet, so it's not time for me to rebut. Although I have some rebuttal, and so does Dave over here. I lost my train of thought. There's risk to being in business, and part of the risk is having delays, having cost overruns, having unanticipated expenses. You know, for him to say, "Oh, gee, it's an inconvenience to come here," that's the part of being in business. I go where I have to go to take care of my business. Well, I think what I'd like to do is, you decide if you want to give us a continuance. I'd really like to have one. If you don't, then we'll continue. I would like to have 2 more weeks at a minimum. And I mean, I found out information today that I think is very relevant that I can give, but there's more information I'm still trying to get. So,
Can I have a question? What do you think about Mr. Roby's suggestion?
that's a thought, but I have other thoughts. And buying a piece of property from the city and the city knowing what the guy intends to do doesn't automatically give him entitlement to do what he wants to do. He has to go through the process. And there's a chance that he wouldn't get his use. I mean, that's a real risk. Just because he bought it, saying I'm going to put cannabis use there, that doesn't give him an entitlement to have it. He has to go through the process. And we're not happy with the process. In fact, I was told you need to poke holes in the process. You know, who gets noticed, who doesn't? Where does the advertising go? Like I said, I found out Lake County News the day after the hearing happened. I would have been here. I found out about other grows that were permitted that I had no idea were permitted. So now I'm keeping the better eye. I get the weekly emails. So, excuse me, anyway, I'd like to have the continuance, and maybe you want to rebut a couple of things that the,
Let's go to the mayor. I think we're heading to, I think we have to make a decision. whether
we had a couple of comments on some of the hydrology stuff. Don't want to hear that tonight.
I think we've heard enough. Yeah. We're gonna bring it to the council. And,
I appreciate your consideration, I really.
all right, I'm bringing it back to the council. Any thoughts on what we want to do? Councilman Kramer?
Well, I think that Collins have an uphill battle here, but I think we've given them extra 2 weeks and not anymore. That's my suggestion.
Mr. Councilman Claffey, any final thoughts?
I don't know what they could gather in 2 weeks that would be compelling enough. So I would suggest we continue. We move forward.
Councilman Overton.
That's kind of, I guess my question is what do you think you're gonna be able to bring back that we don't already have? I mean, I don't know what you're gonna be able to get in 2 weeks either. So, I mean, they pretty much have given us all this water rights thing, which is what you guys were complaining, considering. So my question is what do you need the 2 weeks for to gather what kind of information?
Well, again, one of the things I'm trying to find out is exactly how many legal grows there are up Ogden Canyon. The one thing I didn't know is what the Burns Valley watershed is. It actually extends up Highway 53 on both sides of the highway, almost to Highway 20.
So what you're needing is to be able to get information yourself on the water that is.
More information, yeah, and again, some of the uses, I mean, I
don't think that's gonna get you in. I think the only way you're gonna be able to rebut what a certified hydrologist, you have to be able to rebut.
So I have to go hire somebody to get
I
your
think that's the only way you're gonna get it to have a solid argument.
Sounds
In my opinion.
Sounds like you've made up your mind.
No, I haven't.
Okay. That's
I
what it
have
sounds
not
like
made
to
up
me.
my mind. I'm just
I
telling you
think
what
the reality is, though, that you have an uphill battle here.
Well, I know that. That's why I want to go a little more time.
You've asked for 2 more weeks. You could take 2 more years and you may not.
Well, that's true.
We can't wait then. 2 weeks that would be my.
And I would appreciate that. And like I said,
And this is something that's very emotional. And obviously I'm one of those neighbors in Burns Valley, and I look at the water table as much as anyone does. The hydrology reports, the 3 reports are pretty darn compelling.
well, I found
I
some
think
holes.
you think you can do it in 2 weeks, I'd say let's give you the 2 weeks.
I appreciate that.
No, Vice Mayor, I don't know. I think we should give them 2 weeks. My fear is, though, that we're not gonna get any more additional information on the compelling. Continue for 2 weeks.
We need a motion.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, we need to know that the majority of the council agrees with that.
I
haven't heard that yet.
But, I mean, I'm willing to do that. I don't see what 2 weeks is gonna make, but I have some questions myself, so I'm gonna ask for, I make the motion that we.
Well, I think we should probably double check with the applicant and the fellow that our next meeting, January 20th, is feasible. I mean, I'm assuming you want everyone to be able to be here.
That's fine.
I think we're available. I do have a question about, and maybe this is. I just have a question about process, protocol, procedure in terms of re-presenting what we've already presented here. And clarifying, in other words, what are we going to be able to give you? Is that going to be an open kind of thing? We would hope for that.
I was until it'll be a public hearing, so.
They're gonna make their presentation, so you can.
Sounds like we would probably be required to follow the same process, although hopefully it would be a little more standard where we have the appellant, rebuttal from the applicant, and then public comment, and, final word from.
Are you asking whether you, was that your presentation that you?
Well, basically, that was our presentation. However, what I'm also asking is about, I mean, we've heard a lot of public input, and I'm not opposed to that at all. But is the door open for more public comment, for more, I mean, is it just an open?
In fact, it is, right?
Yeah, it's gonna have to be, I mean, and if there's more information provided from the appellant, then we're gonna have to allow the applicant to respond and so forth. So I think.
Yes, and what we're gonna do, if you continue a public hearing, you don't close the public hearing, right? So it stays open until the next meeting. In which case, that does allow additional people to come and make a presentation, but everything that's already been stated is on the record. So to hear it again, that's up to the applicant and the appellant, whether they want to redo that, but they don't necessarily need to because it's already been heard.
Agreed. So we continue leading and we need to vote on that, right?
Correct.
I make the motion that we continue the meeting to what date?
January 20th at 6
January
p.m.
20th.
6 p.m.
At 6 p.m.
I'll second. Okay, we have a, now, what would you? Get our voting thing going?
Should be up.
Mr. Mayor, I think it would be good to have the clerk announce the vote. It's a little difficult to see with the audience.
Madam Clerk, would you, read the vote?
Yes. The motion passes with a 4-1 vote, 1 opposed, which is Vice Mayor Purdott.
Okay, this, the second item number.
Yeah, I think you need to make a motion to also continue this item to the 20th at 6 p.m.
Make the motion to continue this item to January 20th at 6 p.m.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilwoman Overton.
This is on, which one now?
This is the development agreement.
Yes, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second by Councilwoman Kramer. I don't think you vote for.
I apologize. I missed who made the motion.
Councilwoman Overton made a motion and Councilman Kramer second.
Thank you. Voting is open.
Everybody has voted to vote now.
Yes. Let's see. Okay, that motion passed with a unanimous yes vote from the council.
Okay, we'll go to item number 14. Unless you want to break. Yes, we want to break. Thank you. 5-minute break. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kramer. Move on.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Item number 14. Mr. Moore.
Mr. Goodman will, do this item. He's still with us.
We're getting old.
We're all getting older, Mr. Goodwin.
Good evening, council members, Mr. Mayor. So this item we want to extend the road closure in the Gobi desert area of the city. The reason that area was closed in the first place, and we really closed the whole area, it wasn't a single street. But we closed that whole area because there was so much illegal dumping and vehicle dismantling and all kinds of other activities going on there that we felt that we needed to basically cut off access to the area. We have put probably 4,000 feet of K-rail in the area to block roads and block any off-road access into the area. People still manage to get in there, but we have really slowed those kinds of activities in that particular area. So it has been effective, not completely effective, but it has been effective. People are able to, with a strap or chain or something, pull those K-rails far enough away from each other so they can't get through, but that's kind of rare. So what we're asking is that we continue to keep that area closed, keep those streets closed. For another, I think we're talking about 18 months.
And it's required to be updated every 18 months. The council has to formally.
So we'd like to extend that for another 18 months while we continue to work on maybe some other solution. I'm not sure exactly what that would be. I have some ideas, but I'm not going to discuss those in this meeting because they're not ready for a council meeting at this point. Wait, do you have any questions about that?
Questions for staff?
Basically, just want to continue on with what we've done in that area.
That's correct. And we do need to do some additional cleanup now that we have the area pretty secure. There's going to be some additional cleanup done. We've just been trying to get through the holidays and get our arms around the rain issues that we've had. But I would expect in the next 60 days, we'll be up there doing some cleanup to try and get some of the debris that was dumped in there in the last 18 months out.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I could just make a couple of brief comments. I mean, we secured it. There was some holes in the security. It's had to be reworked a couple of times. There is still a house in the kind of the middle of it that causes problems. It's red tagged. It's the real issue. Code enforcement is illegally occupied. They've been working through the abatement process, and we expect to remove that structure at some point, which will help with access. We are working on some long-term plans for the area. We don't expect this to be barricaded off in perpetuity, but Acacia is going to be paved this year. And the city owns several parcels out there, so we're working on some housing development options, and we think if we get some of that stuff built, especially on the east side, we'll be able to kind of turn the corner on that area and see it redevelop as a normal community. So
That was my question. What is our plan in that area? So, okay, please answer. Thank you very much.
All right, I have no more questions from staff. Well, public hearing, is there any comments from the public in this item? Not in the council chambers, anybody on Zoom? Madam Clerk?
There are no hands raised within the Zoom, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
we'll go back to the council. Ready to make a motion?
Make it, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion that we consider or accept the resolution number 2022-05 authorizing the extension of the temporary closure of certain roads to reduce illegal hunting and to protect the environment and the public health and welfare.
Second to the motion. We have a motion by Councilwoman Overton and a second by Councilman Kramer. Go to the vote. Right. Item number. Item number 15, we have a presentation, right?
Mr. Mayor, may I read the vote for the last item?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The vote for the last item, the road closure extension, was a unanimous vote of the council 5-0.
Item number 15, consideration of authorization of the city manager to prepare and submit 2 program income only applications to the California Housing and Community Development CDBG program resolution number 2022-06 and 2022-07. Finance Director.
Yes, hi, good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Kelsey Young, Director of Finance. So the City Council is being asked to consider adopting 2 resolutions. These may seem familiar, as the City Council previously approved these items on August 5th, 2021. However, due to some revisions and technical changes by HPD, we are being asked to bring it before you again, both for the public hearing and then for your approval. So the city has identified approximately 500,000 in CDBG program income funding. So that's funding that we have already been receiving back into our program. And we broke them into the following 2 projects. The Senior Community Center Rehabilitation Project, which is estimated cost not to exceed $200,000. And this project will consist of parking lot resurfacing and landscaping improvements, and as well as striping. And there's also the Redbud Park Facility and Safety Improvements Program, which is estimated cost not to exceed $300,000. And that one is going to do a rehabilitation of the Redbud Park bathrooms, including replacing the sinks, fixtures, etc., as well as significant safety improvements. Are there any questions regarding this
Question,
project?
council? Thank you for your report. Thank you. We open it up to the public. Public comments on this item. Madam Clerk, anybody on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we'll close the public hearing. Take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve resolution 2022-04, amending the city's Clearlake's 2017 CDBG contract with California Housing and Community Development to add 2018 CDBG funding.
Second. Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Clappy and a
Wait,
second.
I think that is the next item.
Yeah. Oh, you want ahead of
There's lots of region names, you get very confusing.
Oh, it's 06 and 07.
Apologies. Save that one, possible.
Want to redo your motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move to approve resolution Resolution 2022-06 and 2022-07.
A second. We have a motion by Councilman Clappy and a second by Vice Mayor Burdock. Voted.
Vice Mayor Purdock.
All right.
The motion passes with a unanimous vote of the council.
All right, we'll go to item number 16.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'll take this one. So this one isn't actually HCD giving us a template and then us adopting it and then later setting it to another template. But this is the multifamily housing funding. The city received a direct allocation in 2017, and then, as you'll recall, the county of Lake decided that they didn't have project for their 2018 allocation. So they relinquished those funds to be used by the city of Lakeport and the city of Clearlake. So HCD in this case, I think has probably saved us a little bit of headache. They've agreed to amend the 2017 resolution to include the 2018 funds, and then we'll only have to submit one application for the whole pot. So that's kind of the high level overview. If you have any questions,
Any questions from staff and the council? If not, I'll open it up to the public. Public comment on this item. I see there's a comment from Supervisor Chair, thumbs up.
maybe it would be appropriate to thank the supervisor for
We always think. Supervisor Secretary for his help. Madam Clerk, anybody from the Zoom on public comment?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
All right, and we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move the motion to accept resolution number 2022-04, resolution amending resolution number 2020-36, adopted August 20th, 2020, approving the allocation of funding and the execution of the grant agreement, any amendments thereto from the CDBG-DR program, further, and adding funding from the County of Lake 2018 CDBG-DR program allocation to the city of Clearlake. Make that motion read by title only.
There's a motion by Councilman Kramer and a second by Councilwoman Overton. Vote. Okay, result of the vote.
Okay, so hold on one second. Could we redo that, please? Oh, okay, I've got it. Okay. Still learning the system myself. Thank you. Okay, so that motion passed with a unanimous vote of the council.
Which is item number 17. Discussion and possible action for construction of a warehouse facility at Clearlake Senior/Community Center.
Well, I can give a super brief overview. The council talked about this, I don't know, a month or two ago, and gave direction to allow Larkin to construct a 20 by 40 storage building. Subsequent to that, the plans changed a little bit, and so it was appropriate to bring the plan back to the council for discussion. So I think Councilmember Kramer is probably prepared to talk about that, and you should have a little map that was prepared to count. And I'll put that up on the screen.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, what happened? We did get the approval from council to approve the building at 20 by 40. I think we each have one of these.
Yes.
The cost of that building, how it started, Redwood Credit Union had offered Larka a grant of $30,000 to build the building. When I started getting estimates on the building, the actual cost went up slightly over $30,000. In fact, the building itself was closed right after the concrete and the wiring, et cetera. So I approached Redwood Healthcare District to see if I can get additional funds for that. They were surprisingly very enthusiastic about the project and asked that we make it slightly bigger. So that's where we come back with a 20 by 60 plan. They actually voted to give us an additional $30,000, up to $30,000 for construction of the building, plus another $10,000 for shelving on the inside of it. So it was, that was
pretty amazing, and I hate to turn down money for things like that. Plus, this building will expand the use of it from just the limited storage that we had in mind to begin with to more of a storage for emergency supplies as well as distribution of emergency supplies from time to time as opportunities arise. So what I'm asking for is that we approve the expanded building, the 20 by 60 rather than the 20 by 40, as it's depicted on the aerial. The building will still have actually 14-foot heat height, one 14-foot wide, 12-foot high roll-up door and a pedestrian door, plus concrete apron at the door, in front of the door and the pedestrian door and the roll-up. That's kind of a nutshell of what I'm asking to do, is basically extend the length of the building by 20 feet. It's still in that area that's not really usable for anything else.
Okay. We have a question on comment. Vice-Mayor Porto.
Councilman Kramer, that the exterior will essentially mirror the existing buildings there on the property,
Yes.
the senior center and the shower trailer.
Yes, it,
Oh, sorry.
it'll be as. Yes.
Right.
I was hoping to him. Yes, as it was going to be for the original building, it's the same exterior as the shower trailer building. So it'll match it exactly and complement the community center building as well. It'll be 2 feet lower than the shower trailer.
2 feet, that's
Councilwoman Overton.
Okay, so I know when this project all started was when we had the Valley Fire and all of that stuff. Lots of things have changed since then. You know, I'm trying to figure out why we need such a big building now when Red Cross is now down here, they have the supplies down here, which they never did before when we had the Valley Fire. We're building storage over at our own, you know, public works yard. So I'm trying to decide what this is actually going to be used for now. I mean, it's getting bigger, number one, but now at this point in time with all the changes that have happened, we didn't own that property across the street stuff, and now we do. I mean, so what is this building actually going to be used for since we don't need to store anything per se in it as far as Red Cross or any of that stuff anymore because they have their trailers here. So what is it going to be used for now?
Actually, they don't have the trailers here, but they do have their trailers out at the sewer ponds.
Here.
Ask me a question. And as was before, we also have another storage trailer out there that was equipment that was actually donated to the fire department. With the idea that storage, those supplies would come to the storage building on site when given one we got. And that was the intent when we did this initially. Since then, we've had an addition of an offer from a group called World Vision, the 501c3, to provide items for folks that are in need, lost their homes in fires, lost their homes for whatever reasons. These are items that are delivered to area for basically nothing. All they need is an area where it can be stored and separated and distributed. And I would envision using this for that as well. It's in an area where we have the ability to have public access, something that we would not have at the corporation yard. So it's an expanded use. Again, Redwood Health District, they were ecstatic about the idea. The community center is for the community use, not just the senior center, for everything, for other things as well. And this building will enhance that community use, and that will allow us to be able to distribute these types of items and for other things that may come up.
Well, I tell you, it's going to be for distribution of furniture and everything, because that's the only thing I can see with this.
Pardon me?
So go ahead, Alan.
Well, I just thought it might be helpful, maybe one clarifying thing, is we talked about the Red Cross supplies. So the disaster response is handled by the county social services department, coordinated Red Cross and all that. So they have a trailer that is kept at Anderson Ranch, which is their main building in Lower Lake. They have a Connex box there that they keep some supplies in, and they also have a trailer at the public health offices over in Lakeport. And they shared, I asked them if they had need to do anything different, and they don't. They're satisfied with the storage that they have at their just.
Again, this is to go with the emergency shelter project. It was the final piece again. I don't see where anything has changed in that. We have those same supplies in a Connex in a trailer, again, out of the sewer farms. And to get to that, when we need it this hour, there are times when even if it's at Anderson or even out at the sewer farm, we have to go to the right person that has the key to get to it. And there's a delay in time when we don't have that reason to have that delay. These will be stored right on the site where the emergency shelter is.
What's going to be stored is my question. What is going to be stored there? It's not gonna be Red Cross stuff. So what's going to be stored?
It's gonna be Red Cross type stuff for the emergency shelter. It'll be cots, blankets, all the same things that Red Cross would bring in from wherever they have their trailer.
So is LARCA purchasing costs to supply for this, or what?
Pardon me?
Is LARCA gonna purchase the costs that go in here?
No, the cots are already available. They were donated through the fire department. I had a conversation with Chief Cepeda, and he's, let's go look at them and get them down there once we got the building. These are not owned by Red Cross, but they're Red Cross type supplies. They're an alternative to Red Cross where we're not dependent on whether Red Cross gets there at 6 o'clock or at 6 o'clock the next morning, like we have seen in the past. But that's only the one part of it. The other part is giving us the ability, as I said, to use this for distribution of other supplies that are needed and can be used. This project is already one that was started, and I think they have a warehouse in Applicant. There's one up in Paradise. There's one now, a small one down in Lakeport. This would just make that project that much more efficient. Because we have the largest population, of course, down here, the largest need for those types of things.
So, okay, let me get this clarified. I'm just trying to clarify why we need to enlarge this building. I'm going to tell you to try to distribute furniture and stuff out of that area is going to be a nightmare. Because first off, it's not easy when you've got all these people there and everything and trying to distribute out of there. It's a nightmare just to distribute, try to close, let alone other things, other items. It will be horrible. I mean, I'll just let you know, it will be a nightmare. And I hope we probably won't be around to see it, but it's going to be a nightmare. But I don't know the purpose of that when there's always other places that furniture and stuff like that can be stored. You know, we talked about getting different nonprofits and churches to help with that kind of stuff.
Where are all these other storage places? There are none around. They're all being used.
But you think they're going to store a bunch of furniture and stuff in this building to hand out to us some given time?
It'll be an ongoing, once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month. I don't know, whenever truckload comes in.
Because I don't. So I'm going to tell you it's not going to work, but okay. But
Well, let's agree to disagree in Councilwoman Overton. I think they will work. And I think it's
I
something
know
that's
you
needed.
do, Russ. I get you standing.
The center, the community center is for the community's use.
Okay. And so is a public workshop, which I still feel would be a better place for a big building like this.
Councilman Clark, you want it?
Sit there on me, if you know that.
Hey,
Oh, yeah, I did that.
with me, I can't go down, I can't go ask the question, so.
Councilmember Kramer, I think you mentioned this last time. Will this building have electricity and will it have climate control?
We will have electricity and what was.
Climate control, so like AC heating.
Not climate control at this point, other than the fact that it's tall enough to have air circulation. We have, of course, we have the ability to put something in that if it were needed. It's again 14-foot eve height, so it's got air circulation inside, and it does have electricity, yes.
So you mentioned distribution out of here. What would the layout look like inside of this building?
It'll just be an open,
Just an open-
20 by 60-foot building.
Open
I
space?
anticipated with the shelving, it will have shelving for be able to put pallets in it if needed, and they'll go up probably 3 high with that interior eve height.
And I'm sorry, so, and then the donation from Redwood, is that only available if the building goes here? Is it available if we decide to put it at a corporation yard or anywhere else?
They specifically made the donation, made the grant on the basis of it going at the community center because it was, again, start out was in relationship to the emergency shelter. So that was why they jumped in. They supported the community, to the tune of probably $1.5 million for the last 45 years. They made $1,000 per person grants available after the cash fire to all of those based on the list. The director of finance put together. I think I made Mark actually also made $500 per person grants to, I think we made it to 33 people plus one business grant. I'm assuming that Redwood made at least $35,000. So they have stepped in and they're stepping in once again, but one of their specific requirements is that the app and connected to the emergency shelter project and the building be used for that purpose. That was one of the requirements. And again, Redwood helped step in, help when it went over that 30,000 they would put up. Again, because they see the community need for it and wanted to support it. In fact, they wanted to make the building bigger. And I just didn't think that's really hard.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is a public hearing. We will open a public hearing. We have done over there. Please come up. State your name.
Hi, my name is Jeff Lucas. I live at 322 Partial Circle, which is
Right behind the building.
That's right.
Yeah, so I obviously I need to keep up with things a little better. First off, I want to say how much I appreciate as a resident of Clearlake, all the work all of you are doing. I mean that sincerely. And working with Ellen, he's probably the best city manager we've had here. I didn't know about this project. I just happened to be looking as I do periodically at the agenda. So all I want to know is, it sounds like it's kind of a done deal. It's got to go there to get the funding that's been arranged. It's how tall?
14 feet.
14 and the other one's 16.
2 feet lower than the other.
And the exterior?
It will match the other one in the exterior.
That'll be changed.
Won't be any lights on the back.
Lights?
Exterior lights.
No. Yeah. I'm not sure the process exactly on how this works. I understand commercial development, so I know this is a city project, but.
No, it's a LARCA project here in the city.
Okay.
Something that LARCA's, if LARCA has
started with to go back at the beginning, the emergency evacuation shelter after the 2015 fire. It's probably just about close to $240,000. Plus a lot of volunteer labor at the emergency shelter that Clark has. And then presented the other things, the generator was through a grant from PG&E. The shower trailer itself was a grant from Tipping Point Community. The building that's housing it was a grant from Rebuttal Street. Those were all of the labor. Well, the labor, concrete slab under the building. Martha gave the city $15,000 and went towards slab for that plus sidewalk. That includes beyond. Yeah, this building is electricity is right there, of course, 5 feet to the west of it, as you know where that board is.
Yeah.
It's going to be a traffic building. And again,
And just reassure me, as far as traffic generation and access, just because I've been, looking at the parking lot for 10 years and watching traffic patterns go on during the height of use. I mean, it's full. And when I'm thinking in terms of traffic circulation and that kind of stuff, I guess it makes sense to have it there.
well, it makes sense because the storage part for the emergency shelter is right there, and then get it to the center. And the electricity is right there. You put it somewhere else, and it can be more costly. And you can go where we would put it, to be honest with you. We on the shelter, we had it placed several different places before we settled on that, because it was in direct line with the connection to the sanitary sewer, which we had to do a dedicated connection to it. So that's where we, and then of course we were able to tie into the water line that goes back to the garden. It's just, just outside your fence.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 or 6 feet. So that was a decision that we finally, after many changes and looking at different operations, that's how we came up with that. Putting this building here beside it makes sense from that standpoint. It's right in that, it completes completes the project.
So are you objecting or are you appalling or what do you think?
I like what you guys do. I just don't like this particular location. That's all. I didn't really know about it. I maybe I didn't pay better attention. It's probably on me as a citizen. And I'm just getting used to it.
And I apologize. I probably should have gone over, knocked on your door, and got down and told you that.
Well, I'm not saying that.
Okay, we got it.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments on
I
that.
think it should be just that way.
Somebody else's backyard, right?
Well, yeah.
So block somebody else's son.
We have Mr. Sanatiero.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, Russ Bucky, resident of Clearlake. I don't want to argue or discuss the position of this building. I think the reason for the building is valid. We've seen larger and larger emergencies where maybe the supplies that we have in Lake County is not enough. We've also seen there was some hardships in figuring out who was supposed to do what in the latest emergency we just had for the cash fire, where having this right here would be helpful for the city of Clearlake to make sure you have access to the things that our residents need during an emergency. What I do want to offer for you, I don't know if it was created when the building was built in the first place, but I would definitely like to suggest a master plan for this property. I've heard about parks, I've heard about walkways, I've heard about other things, but if you have a master plan for the entire property, it makes it easier to figure out and for the community who wants building, if that's the location for those things, rather than knowing that there's a possibility and trying to figure out where it can go. I think it might make that easier for the future, and it also can give a greater vision for what the property will look like. Thank you.
Great idea. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing
Do we have anybody on Zoom that wants to comment on this? Clerk?
We do have a hand raised on Zoom. This is Elizabeth Larson. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Can you hear me?
Barely.
Okay, let me try this. Is that better?
Yeah, marginally.
Okay. My question was also about, I had checked with staff this week when I saw this on the agenda, I was curious if there was a plan for this facility, and staff said there wasn't. So my question is sort of similar to Supervisor Sabatier's suggestion. I'm curious if the city has ever actually considered doing a master plan for this facility, because that way it seems like it would be much more intuitive to tell you where things are supposed to go, because there have been discussions over the last 6 months about various amenities that are supposed to go there. So I was curious also about, if you've considered a plan.
Very good comment. Thank you. Okay, anything else? Anybody else?
There are no further hands raised in the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
All right. The council, just provide direction to staff. All right.
I would like to see the building approved and go in 20 feet larger than what was originally approved with a 5-0 vote. And that was because of the good intentions of the Red Bud Healthcare District when they saw that it could help their community.
Anybody else have any comments?
I just want to thank the credit union for one seeing the need and then upping their contribution when circumstances change. Appreciate Larka doing the work to secure this. I think, yeah, let's see this proceed.
Personally, I know we need it there, but I wish it was a better looking building. But it doesn't really, it's starting to become more of an industrialized kind of thing, and that kind of bothers me a little bit. But I do think of direction to staff, I think we proceed with that. But we need to get some kind of master plan on this.
Last building, last.
That's the last building you asked for?
It'll be the last building.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, director staff, I think, any concurrence with the Vice Mayor products? There's still has. Want to continue? Good. I guess we'll continue. Provide direction to staff, so you guys are both.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. I turn. Mayor's appointment. We have numerous committees that we all participate in, and some of them meet, some of them never meet. So some of them I wonder why we have on this list. Abandoned vehicle is currently Spurdock as a member of the alternate. 2 District 1-7 Advisory Board. Me, we've never met in the last 2 years, so I don't know what. Yeah, and I've been told that nobody's ever met for the last 20 years. The Resource Management Committee currently is Overton as a member of the Blackfield alternate. I don't know if you ever met with that committee. That's also one that nobody ever goes to or never gets invited to go to. Integrated Waste Management Task Force, Solid Waste Diversion Committee, Clearlake Solid Waste Committee. I think Purdock was a member of the Blackfield alternate, keep it that way. And we'll go to the PEG board. David Clackey is a member, and Purdock an alternate. That way, Traffic Safety Committee, Joyce Overton is a member, Purdock is the alternate. Keep it that way. We'll go to the League of Cities. We'll continue with Joyce Overton as the member and David Claffey as the alternate.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, that item is the next item on the agenda. That must be changed by resolution.
Okay. Well, Area Planning Council, Transit Authority, currently Vice Mayor Purdock as a member, Council Kramer as a member, He has an alternate, keep it that way. We have the Clean Water County, Lake County Clean Water Program Advisory Committee. Member to be determined. I don't know if we ever met on that. We'll keep it that way. Lake County Watershed Protection District Management Council. Councilwoman Overton is on that committee, and we have Mr. Councilman Kramer as the alternate. Zoning update. That too.
On the Finwire program, isn't that one of the city?
Public Works Department representative.
Okay, I was saying, I just wanted to make sure, because it used to be a council, but when I did.
I think I've gotten notices where our Public Works Director is advised of those meetings. Is that correct?
There has been some change in that. I am still included in those emails, but Adeline Brown.
That's right, yeah.
Is doing work there, and so is one of our engineering people. Now I can remember. Highway Park. Thank you.
All right. We have Clearlake Marketing Committee, Councilman Claffey and Councilman Overton on that one. And LAFCO is I'm the member, and Council Vice Mayor Kurdak is the alternate, and Lake County Airport Land Use Commission. Councilman Kramer is the member, and I'm the alternate. So those are my committee assignments, except we have two more. We have one more is the Risk Reduction Authority. And Councilman Kramer has been active in that way. And Community Visioning Committee, which is the county committee on equity, et cetera, et cetera. The whole title of that. And that's it. So can I have a motion? Those.
Make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve selections that you have made for the 2022 committees, various committees.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Kramer, and a second by Councilman Claffey. All right, we go to the next item on the agenda. So, please.
The motion passes with a unanimous vote of the council.
Last item. Consideration of appointing council members as represented to the Cal City Clearlake Empire Division Resolution 2022-02, the resolution for City Council of the City of Clearlake appointing representative to represent vote on behalf of the city at Cal City Redwood Empire Division business meetings to represent the city and vote at the Division Legislative Committee meetings. And I appoint Councilwoman Overton as the member and Councilman Claffey as the alternate. And do we need a motion on that?
I'll move to approve.
One second.
Public comment.
Public comment.
Welcome for the public. Any public comment at the council chamber, anything on Zoom? Madam Clerk?
There's no comment on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Bring it back to the council.
Okay, now, Mr. Mayor, I would like to move that council approve your nomination of Councilwoman Overton as member and Council Member Claffey as alternate, as a representative to the Cal City Redwood Empire Division. Resolution 2022-02. And I read that backwards. I'll do it again. Resolution of the City Council of the City of Clearlake, appointing representatives to represent and vote on behalf of the city at Cal City's Redwood Empire Division business meetings and represent the city and vote at the division legislative committee.
A motion by Councilman Kramer and a second by Councilman Overton. We vote. Okay.
The motion passes with a unanimous vote of the council in favor.
Good. City managers and council members reports. City manager Flora.
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
Nothing. Nothing. For one thing from police. That probably was warmer than when I was. All right, Councilman Kramer.
I have nothing further.
Vice Mayor Purdock, anything exciting?
Nothing exciting.
Councilman Claffey.
Nothing to report.
Councilman Overton.
I just want to report that we did some touch up at the community center during after Christmas and Christmas and New Year's. We we painted that building several years ago and inside, and we did some touch ups and finished out what we didn't finish at the time, and painted the offices and reorganized the kitchen. Hopefully, when people have events there, they're going to find that it's a lot easier to the dishes and everything, because we kind of changed some things and hung them up. So next event, so you'll hear that it was much better. So, and that's all I have to report, except for when I give my condolences to Bob Hopkins' family. Bob passed away of a heart attack while playing tennis. Most of you guys know Betty that works at Main Street Cafe, so I really want to send my prayers out to her family. Bob was definitely a great asset to us, doing the trunk or treat, the youth center, the flag football, the senior center. I mean, he was very, the vet connect. I don't know what they're going to do without him, but he was very community oriented, and so he's going to truly be missed by a lot.
I was right there when the ambulances and stuff, and the gentleman, he was playing tennis was just. I just pull over.
Jump in, I was attending to, and I forgot when it was my turn to call her to thank Councilwoman Overton for the work she did. In cleaning it up. I know she spent a tremendous amount of time there last week. She tried to entice me down there once.
All right, I attended the Zoom meeting last night on the Vision Plan Commission. It's I'll bring some more forward. They hired the person to guide this committee, and we'll have some more reports coming. But I have one other thing. I want to sing happy birthday to one of our councilmen.
No.
Yeah. All right. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Joyce. Happy birthday to you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Future agenda. Do you have anything from the council? If not, we've got.